Dante Sinclair, a lonely billionaire, never expected to find something real when he paid humble waitress Sierra James for her company on his birthday. But one night turned into something neither of them could ignore, something deeper, something life-changing. Can love bridge the gap between their worlds? Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. The elegant dining room of Le Ciel sparkled with crystal glasses and fine china. Sierra James hurried between tables, her feet already aching 3 hours into her shift. At 28, she had perfected the art of the pleasant smile that hid her exhaustion. "Sierra, table 12 needs more wine," barked Marcus, the floor manager who never missed an opportunity to remind her she was replaceable. "Right away," she said, tucking a strand of her chestnut hair behind her ear. Le Ciel was the kind of restaurant where a single meal cost more than Sierra's daily pay. The customers rarely looked at her face, their attention fixed on their companions or their phones. Sometimes Sierra felt invisible, like a ghost moving between tables. As she approached the wine station, her co-worker Jenna nudged her. "Check out." "Table 14, Jenna whispered. "That's Dante Sinclair." Sierra glanced over. A man sat alone at a corner table, his dark hair perfectly styled, his suit obviously custom-made. Even sitting down, she could tell he was tall. His face was striking, strong, jaw intense eyes that surveyed the room like he owned it. "For the tech billionaire?" Sierra asked, remembering his face from magazine covers. 35 years old and worth over $2 billion, Jenna confirmed. "What's he doing here alone?" Sierra shrugged and continued with her duties. Rich people and their problems didn't concern her. She had her own worries, like the notice about her rent increasing next month and her mother's medical bills piling up. At the end of her shift, Sierra was counting her tips when Marcus approached. "Table 14 wants to speak with you," he said, looking suspicious. "What did you do?" "Nothing," Sierra replied, confused. She had only taken his order and served his food. "Did he complain?" "Just go," Marcus ordered. With a sigh, Sierra walked to table 14. Dante Sinclair was still there, nursing a glass of whiskey. Up close, he was even more handsome, but there was something else. A heaviness in his eyes, a tension in his shoulders. "You wanted to see me, sir?" she asked politely. He looked up and his gaze was direct, penetrating. "Sierra, right?" She nodded, surprised he had noticed her name tag when most customers didn't. "Please sit down," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Sierra hesitated. "I'm not allowed to sit with customers." "I've already spoken to your manager. It's fine." His voice was deep, with a confidence that came from always getting his way. Reluctantly, Sierra sat down. "Is there a problem with your meal?" A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "The meal was perfect. You were attentive without hovering. You're good at your job." "Thank you," she said, still confused about why she was sitting across from one of the richest men in the country. "Today's my birthday," he said abruptly. Sierra blinked. "Oh, happy birthday, Mr. Sinclair." "Dante," he corrected. 35 years old and sitting alone in a restaurant. He gave a short, humorless laugh. "Pathetic, isn't it?" "I'm sure you have friends and family who would want to celebrate with you," Sierra said diplomatically. "Friends?" Dante swirled his whiskey. "People who want something from me, sure. Family? My parents died when I was in college. It's just me." Sierra didn't know how to respond to this unexpected confession. "I had a party planned," he continued. "Rented out a club. 200 people on the guest list. This morning I cancelled." "It all didn't, why?" The question slipped out before Sierra could stop herself. "Because I realized I didn't want to spend my birthday with people who only care about what I can do for them." He leaned forward. "Do you know what it's like to be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone?" Something in his words resonated with Sierra. Despite having friends and her mother, she often felt no one truly saw her, understood her struggles and dreams. "Sometimes," she admitted. Dante studied her for a moment, as if seeing something in her that interested him. "I have a proposition." "For you, Sierra?" Her guard immediately went up. She'd heard propositions from wealthy men before. "I'm not that kind of waitress, Mr. Sinclair." To her surprise, he laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his face. "Nothing like that, I promise." "How much do you make in tips on an average night?" "About $200, she said cautiously. "I'll pay you $2,000 for your company tonight. Just dinner, just conversation, no strings attached." Sierra's eyes widened. "Excuse me? I don't want to be alone on my birthday, and I don't want to be with people who are only interested in my money. You seem real, genuine." He shrugged. "It's just dinner." Sierra almost stood up to leave, insulted by the offer, but something stopped her. The look in his eyes. It wasn't arrogance or entitlement, it was loneliness. Despite his wealth and success, Dante Sinclair was deeply, painfully alone, and $2,000. That would cover her mother's medication for months. "Just dinner," she clarified. "In a public place?" He nodded. "We can stay right here if you want, or go somewhere else. Your choice." Sierra took a deep breath. "Why me? There are plenty of women who would love to have dinner with you without being paid." "Exactly," Dante said. "They'd want something, connections, publicity, a relationship. You don't seem impressed by who I am. It's refreshing." Sierra thought about her empty apartment, the bills waiting on her kitchen table, her mother's voice on the phone earlier that day, trying to hide her pain. "Okay," she finally said. "Just dinner. But I need to change first." Dante's face lit up with a smile that transformed him from merely handsome to breathtaking. "Take your time. I'll wait." 30 minutes later, Sierra returned wearing the only nice dress she owned, a simple navy blue number she kept in her locker for after-work events. She had brushed her hair and applied a touch of lipstick. Dante stood when he saw her approach. His eyes widened slightly. "You look beautiful. Where would you like to go?" Sierra asked, ignoring the compliment. "There's a small Italian place, a few blocks from here. Much less pretentious than this place. Best pasta in the city." To Sierra's surprise, they walked instead of taking a car. The early autumn air was crisp, and Dante seemed to relax as they left the upscale restaurant behind. "So, Sierra James," he said as they walked, "tell me about yourself." "There's not much to tell," she replied. "I work at Le Ciel 5 nights a week. I have a degree in education that I'm not using. I take care of my mom, who has MS. You live in the city?" "A small apartment in Brooklyn. The rent keeps going up, but I make it work." She glanced at him. "What about you, besides what's in the magazines?" Dante smiled. "I grew up in Chicago, middle class. My dad was a high school teacher. My mom a nurse. They died in a car accident my junior year of college." "I'm sorry," Sierra said softly. "I started my first company from my dorm room," he continued. "A simple app that helped students organize their schedules. Sold it for enough to start my current company, Sinclair Tech. The rest is history." They arrived at a small, cozy restaurant tucked between 2 larger buildings. The owner greeted Dante like an old friend, leading them to a quiet corner table. "You come here often?" Sierra asked, surprised. "At least once a week. Giorgio knew me before I made my first million. He still charges me the same prices as everyone else, no matter how much I argue." Over homemade pasta and red wine, Sierra found herself relaxing. Dante was nothing like she expected. He listened when she talked, asked thoughtful questions, and told stories about his own life with self-deprecating humor. "So why no relationship?" Sierra asked after their plates were cleared. "Surely there are women who see past your money." Dante's expression turned pensive. "My last 3 relationships ended the same way. They said they loved me, but they loved what I could give them more. The trips, the gifts, the lifestyle." He shrugged. "After a while, you stop trying." "That sounds lonely," Sierra said honestly. "It is." His eyes met hers. "What about you? No boyfriend, girlfriend?" Sierra shook her head. "I don't have time. Between work and taking care of Mom, relationships aren't a priority." "What are your dreams, Sierra? What would you do if you didn't have to worry about money?" The question caught her off guard. No one had asked her that in years. "I'd open a small bookstore," she said, surprising herself with the admission. "With a reading corner for kids. I'd hold story times and help kids fall in love with reading." Dante smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "That sounds perfect for you. After dinner, they walked to a nearby park. The night was clear, stars visible despite the city lights. They sat on a bench, talking about everything and nothing. Favorite books, childhood memories, places they wanted to see. Sierra couldn't remember the last time she had enjoyed someone's company so much. There was something about Dante that made her feel seen, really seen for the first time in years. "It's getting late," she finally said, checking her watch. "I should go home." Dante nodded, but she could see the reluctance in his eyes. "I'll get you a car." "That's not necessary." "Please, it's late, and it would make me feel better." Sierra nodded, too tired to argue. As they waited for the car, an awkward silence fell between them. "Thank you for tonight," Dante said finally. "It was the best birthday I've had in years." "I had a nice time too," Sierra admitted. "You're not what I expected." The car arrived, and Dante opened the door for her. Before she got in, he pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. "As promised," he said, handing it to her. Sierra hesitated, then took the envelope. The weight of it in her hand suddenly made her feel cheap, like their entire evening had been a transaction. "Goodbye, Dante," she said, slipping into the car as the driver pulled away. Sierra looked back. Dante stood on the sidewalk watching the car disappear, his tall figure solitary under the streetlight. Something tightened in her chest. For a moment she wanted to tell the driver to stop, to go back. But that was crazy. This wasn't a fairy tale. He was a billionaire, and she was a waitress he had paid for company. Tomorrow, he would go back to his world, and she to hers. But as she clutched the envelope, Sierra couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed tonight, something inside her. And maybe, just maybe, inside him too. Sierra woke up the next morning feeling strange. The events of the previous night seemed like a dream. Had she really spent hours talking with one of the richest men in the country? Her gaze fell on the envelope on her nightstand, confirming it had all been real. With shaky hands, she opened it again. 20 crisp $100 bills, $2,000 for a few hours of conversation. It felt surreal. Her phone buzzed, with a text from her mother. "How was work last night, honey?" Sierra stared at the message, unsure how to respond. She hadn't told her mother about Dante or the money. How could she explain it without it sounding wrong? "It was fine," she typed back. "I'll come by this afternoon." She got out of bed and put the money in her drawer under some t-shirts. She would use it to pay her mother's medical bills, but she didn't want to think about it right now. At her mother's small apartment in Queens, Sierra found Nancy James sitting by the window, working on a crossword puzzle. At 58, Nancy's once vibrant appearance had been dulled by years of battling multiple sclerosis, but her smile remained as warm as ever. "There's my girl," Nancy said, setting aside her puzzle. "You look tired, sweetheart." "Late night," Sierra said, bending to kiss her mother's cheek. "How are you feeling today?" "Better than yesterday. Dr. Martinez adjusted my medication." Sierra nodded, relieved. "That's good. I brought groceries." As she unpacked the bags in the kitchen, her mother called out, "Something's different about you today." Sierra paused. Her mother had always been perceptive. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. You seem distracted." Sierra joined her mother in the living room. "I met someone last night," she admitted. Nancy's face lit up. "A man." "It's not like that," Sierra said quickly. "He was a customer at Le Ciel. We just talked. Must have been some conversation to have you looking like this." Sierra smiled despite herself. "He was interesting. Different from what I expected." "Are you going to see him again?" The question caught Sierra off guard. "No. It was just one night." "That's a shame. It's been a long time since I've seen that look in your eyes." Sierra changed the subject, but her mother's words lingered in her mind. She hadn't considered the possibility of seeing Dante again. It had been a transaction, nothing more. He had paid for her company, and she had provided it. End of story. Monday evening found Sierra back at Le Ciel, serving the usual crowd of wealthy diners. She tried not to look at table 14 where she had first spoken with Dante. Another couple sat there now, barely acknowledging her as she took their order. Just before closing, Marcus approached her. "Delivery for you," he said, handing her a small white box. Sierra frowned. Who would send me something here? Marcus shrugged. Guy in a suit dropped it off, said it was important. Sierra opened the box in the break room. Inside was a delicate bookmark made of silver, shaped like an open book. A small note accompanied it. For your future bookstore. D. Her heart skipped a beat. Dante remembered their conversation about her dream. The bookmark was beautiful, but not flashy or expensive looking. Tasteful, thoughtful. Sierra slipped it into her purse, unsure how to feel. Was this a thank you gift or something more? The next day, while helping her mother organize her medications, Sierra finally told her about Dante's proposition and the money. $2,000? Nancy's eyes widened. Sierra, that's... I know how it sounds, Sierra interrupted. But it wasn't like that. He just wanted company on his birthday. Nancy studied her daughter's face. And did you enjoy his company? Sierra hesitated. Yes, she admitted. He was easy to talk to, genuine. And now he's sending you gifts. It's just a bookmark, Mom, nothing valuable. Value isn't always about money, sweetheart. Nancy reached for her daughter's hand. Be careful. Men like that live in a different world. Sierra nodded, though a part of her wondered if Dante Sinclair was as different as everyone assumed. Wednesday morning, Sierra's phone rang with an unknown number. Hello? She answered cautiously. Sierra, it's Dante Sinclair. Her breath caught. How did you get my number? I asked your manager. There was a pause. I hope that's okay. Sierra should have been annoyed at the invasion of privacy, but found she wasn't. Did you need something? I wanted to thank you again for Friday night. His voice was warm, sincere. And to ask if you received my gift. The bookmark? Yes, it's beautiful, thank you. I'm glad you liked it. Another pause. I was wondering if you'd have dinner with me again. Sierra closed her eyes. Dante, not as a transaction, he added quickly. Just dinner. As friends. Friends. The word seemed inadequate for what she had felt that night, but she pushed the thought away. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because we live in different worlds. She gestured uselessly, though he couldn't see it. You're you and I'm a waitress with too many responsibilities. That's exactly why I want to see you again, Dante said. You're real, Sierra. Do you know how rare that is in my world? Sierra hesitated, torn between caution and the undeniable pull she felt toward him. Just dinner, he pressed. No expectations. Okay, she finally agreed. But somewhere simple, and I'm paying for myself. Dante laughed. Deal, tomorrow night I'll pick you up at 7. After hanging up, Sierra stared at her phone, a mixture of excitement and anxiety swirling in her stomach. What was she doing? The next evening, Sierra stood in front of her mirror, second-guessing her outfit choice for the third time. She had settled on jeans, a nice blouse, and the only pair of heels she owned. Not too dressy, not too casual. At precisely 7 o'clock, her phone buzzed with a text. I'm outside. Sierra expected a luxury car with a driver, but when she stepped outside her apartment building, she found Dante leaning against a modest sedan, looking surprisingly normal in jeans and a button-down shirt. You drive? She asked, unable to hide her surprise. He grinned. I even tie my own shoes. The restaurant he took her to was a small Cuban place tucked away in a neighborhood Sierra rarely visited. The atmosphere was lively, with Latin music playing and families crowded around tables. I discovered this place by accident, Dante explained as they were seated. Got lost driving one day and smelled the food from the street. Sierra relaxed as the evening progressed. Without the pressure of his proposition, conversation flowed naturally. Dante told her about a new project his company was developing, his eyes lighting up as he explained the technology. Sierra talked about her favorite students from her brief teaching career before her mother's condition had worsened. Why don't you go back to teaching? Dante asked as they shared a flan dessert. Sierra sighed. My mom needs me. Her medical bills are expensive, and teaching doesn't pay enough to cover everything. There must be a way to do both. Maybe someday, Sierra said, though she didn't really believe it. After dinner, they walked along the street, the night warm enough that they didn't need jackets. Can I ask you something? Sierra said suddenly. Anything. Why did you really cancel your birthday party? The truth. Dante was quiet for a moment. I overheard 2 guests at last year's party. They thought I couldn't hear them. One asked the other why they bothered coming, and they said, "Are you kidding? These connections are worth more than gold. Besides, it's an open bar." He shrugged. It made me realize no one was there for me, just what I could offer them. That must have hurt, Sierra said softly. It did, but it was also a wake-up call. He looked at her. What about you? Do you have many friends? A few, mostly from college or work. It's hard to maintain friendships when you work nights and spend days taking care of your mom. You've sacrificed a lot for her. Sierra shook her head. It's not a sacrifice when you love someone. She gave up everything for me when I was growing up. Single mom, working 2 jobs to give me a good life. This is the least I can do. Dante's gaze on her was intense. You're remarkable, Sierra James. I'm just doing what anyone would do. No, he said firmly. Most people wouldn't. Trust me. When they reached her apartment building, an awkward silence fell between them. I had a really nice time, Sierra said honestly. Me too. Dante stepped closer. Can I see you again? Sierra knew she should say no. This couldn't lead anywhere good. She was setting herself up for heartbreak. And yet, yes, she said, surprising herself. The smile that spread across his face made her heart flip. He leaned down slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. When she didn't, he kissed her cheek softly. Good night, Sierra. Good night, Dante. Inside her apartment, Sierra leaned against the door, her cheek tingling where his lips had touched. This was crazy. She was falling for a man so far out of her league, he might as well be from another planet. But as she got ready for bed, she couldn't stop smiling. Over the next few weeks, Dante became a regular part of Sierra's life. They met for dinner twice more, went to a movie, and spent a Sunday afternoon walking through Central Park. Each time, Sierra expected to feel out of place in his world, but Dante had a way of making her forget about their differences. Then came the night that changed everything. Sierra was working a particularly busy shift at Le Ciel when she received an urgent call from her mother's neighbor. Nancy collapsed, the woman said, her voice tight with worry. The ambulance is taking her to Memorial Hospital now. Sierra's world tilted. I'm on my way. She explained the emergency to Marcus, who reluctantly let her leave early. Without thinking, she called Dante. Can you meet me at Memorial Hospital? Her voice shook. It's my mom. I'm on my way, he said without hesitation. When Sierra arrived at the emergency room, frantic with worry, she was shocked to find Dante already there, talking to a doctor in a hushed voice. Sierra, he said, spotting her. Your mum is stable. They're running tests now. How did you... I know some people here, he said simply. The doctor, an older woman with kind eyes, approached them. Ms. James, I'm Dr. Taylor. Your mother had a severe reaction to a new medication. We've stabilized her and she's resting now. Will she be okay? Sierra asked, her voice small. With proper care, yes. But she'll need close monitoring and a new treatment plan. After the doctor left, Sierra collapsed into a chair, the adrenaline draining from her body. Dante sat beside her, taking her hand. She's going to be okay, he said gently. Sierra looked at him, really looked at him. In that moment, she didn't see the billionaire or the eligible bachelor from magazine covers. She saw a man who had dropped. Everything to be by her side when she needed someone. Thank you, she whispered. He squeezed her hand. That's what friends do. But the way he looked at her told Sierra that friends no longer described what was growing between them. Later that night, after her mother was settled in a private room, a mix-up with the insurance, the nurse had said, though Sierra suspected Dante's influence, they stood in the hospital parking lot. You should go home and rest, Dante said. I can stay with your mum. You've done more than enough, Sierra protested. You barely know her. But I know you, he said simply. And He hesitated, then took a deep breath. Sierra, these past few weeks have been the happiest I can remember. When you called tonight, I was terrified, not just for your mom, but for you. The thought of you in pain. He trailed off. Sierra's heart pounded. Dante, what are you saying? He stepped closer, taking her hands in his. I'm saying I'm falling in love with you, and it scares the hell out of me." Sierra stared at him, shocked not by his confession, but by how right it felt. How natural, like they were always meant to find each other. "You don't have to say anything," he continued, misinterpreting her silence. "I know it's fast, and I know our lives are complicated, but—" Sierra silenced him by rising on her tiptoes and pressing her lips to his. The kiss was gentle at first, then deepened as Dante's arms wrapped around her, pulling her closer. When they finally broke apart, both— Breathless, Sierra whispered, "I'm falling in love with you too." The smile that spread across Dante's face was like sunrise after the longest night. He kissed her again, and in that moment, under the harsh hospital parking lot lights, Sierra knew her life had changed forever. What had started as one night, as a simple transaction between strangers, had become something neither of them could have predicted. Something real, something true. But as Sierra rested her head against Dante's chest, listening to his heartbeat, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered a warning. Fairy tales were nice, but real life was complicated, and loving a man like Dante Sinclair would surely come with complications she couldn't even imagine. The morning sunlight streamed through the hospital window as Sierra sat beside her mother's bed. Nancy was awake now, looking pale but much better than the night before. "You've been here all night?" Nancy asked, her voice weak. Sierra nodded, squeezing her mother's hand. "Of course." "And Dante?" Nancy's eyes were knowing. "The nurse told me he stayed until midnight bringing you coffee and making sure I had everything I needed." Sierra smiled softly. "He's been amazing, Mom." "So it's more than friendship now?" Before Sierra could answer, a knock at the door drew their attention. Dante stood there, holding a bouquet of cheerful yellow daisies and a paper bag that smelled like fresh pastries. "Good morning," he said, his eyes finding Sierra's. The warmth in his gaze made her heart skip. "I thought you both might be hungry." Nancy watched their exchange with interest. "You must be Dante, I've heard so much about you." Dante approached the bed, setting the flowers on the nightstand. "All good things, I hope. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. James, though I wish it were under better circumstances." "Call me Nancy, please." She studied him carefully. "Thank you for being here for my daughter last night." "I'm glad I could help," he glanced at Sierra. "How are you holding up?" "Better now," Sierra admitted, conscious of her mother watching them. "The doctor says I can go home tomorrow," Nancy said, "but they want me to have around-the-clock care for at least a week." Sierra's face fell. "I'll talk to my boss about taking time off." "That's not necessary," Dante interjected. "I've already arranged for a home health aide to assist you, if that's okay. The best in the city. All expenses covered." "Dante, no," Sierra began to protest. "That's too much. It's the least I can do," he insisted. "Please, let me help." Nancy looked between them, then nodded. "That's very generous of you, Dante, thank you." After breakfast, Sierra walked Dante to the elevator. "You didn't have to do all this," she said once they were alone. "I wanted to," he replied simply, taking her hand. "Sierra, I meant what I said. Last night I'm falling in love with you. Let me be here for you and your mother." Sierra felt torn. She wasn't used to accepting help, especially not on this scale, but the sincerity in Dante's eyes was undeniable. "Okay," she finally agreed. "But we need to talk about us. What this means. Dinner tonight?" "I'll pick you up after you leave the hospital." Sierra nodded, and Dante leaned down to kiss her softly. As the elevator doors closed, Sierra touched her lips, still feeling the warmth of his kiss. When she returned to her mother's room, Nancy gave her a knowing look. "That man is in love with you." "It's all happening so fast," Sierra admitted, sitting on the edge of the bed. Sometimes the heart knows what it wants before the head catches up. Nancy squeezed her daughter's hand. "But Sierra, be careful. Your worlds are very different. He doesn't care about that. Maybe not now, but what about his friends, his business associates? Will they accept you?" Sierra hadn't thought that far ahead. The reality of dating someone like Dante, the scrutiny, the expectations, suddenly felt overwhelming. That evening, Dante took Sierra to a small Italian restaurant, the same one they had visited on his birthday. The owner greeted them warmly, leading them to a private corner table. "I thought you might prefer somewhere familiar," Dante explained as they sat down. Sierra smiled gratefully. "It's perfect." Over dinner, Sierra shared her concerns. "I'm not sure I fit into your world, Dante. The parties, the business events, the media attention. My world can adjust," Dante said firmly. "What matters is how we feel about each other." "And how do you feel?" Sierra asked, needing to hear it again. Dante reached across the table, taking her hands in his. "I love you, Sierra James. I've never said those words to anyone before, but I'm saying them to you now. I love you." Tears welled in Sierra's eyes. "I love you too." For the next few weeks, Sierra and Dante settled into a new rhythm. The home health aide, Maria, took excellent care of Nancy during the day while Sierra worked. Dante visited often, charming Nancy with his easy manner and genuine interest in her well-being. At night, after checking on her mother, Sierra would spend time with Dante. Sometimes they went out to dinner, but more often they stayed in at Sierra's small apartment, cooking together and talking for hours. It was during one such evening, as they washed dishes side by side, that Dante brought up the future. "Move in with me," he said suddenly. Sierra nearly dropped the plate she was drying. "What?" "Move in with me," he repeated. "Both you and your mother. I have more than enough space, and it would make everything easier. Your mum would have access to better care, and you wouldn't have to travel between two apartments." Sierra set the plate down carefully. "Dante, that's a huge step. I know. But I also know what I want, and that's a life with you." The enormity of what he was suggesting hit Sierra. "What about my job, my independence? You can keep your job if you want to. Or you could finally open that bookstore you've been dreaming about." His eyes were earnest. "I'm not trying to control you, Sierra. I'm trying to build a life with you." Sierra took a deep breath. "Can I think about it?" Dante nodded, pulling her into his arms. "Take all the time you need." Later that night, Sierra discussed Dante's offer with her mother. "What do you think, Mom? Be honest." Nancy considered the question carefully. "I think he truly loves you. But moving into his home, that's accepting his world completely. Are you ready for that?" "I don't know," Sierra admitted. "Everything's happening so fast." "Then tell him you need more time. If he loves you, he'll understand." The next day, Sierra was arranging flowers in her mother's room when her phone buzzed with a text from Jenna, her co-worker from Le Ciel. "Have you seen this? Call me ASAP." Attached was a link to a society gossip column. With a sense of dread, Sierra clicked on it. The headline made her blood run cold. "Tech billionaire Dante Sinclair's new girlfriend, from serving tables to serving herself." Below was a photo of them leaving the hospital, Sierra's hand in Dante's. The article was brutal, suggesting Sierra was a gold digger who had manipulated a vulnerable Dante. Sources close to Sinclair report he paid the waitress for her company initially, a transaction that has clearly evolved into something more lucrative for the ambitious server. Sierra's hands shook as she scrolled through the comments, each one more vicious than the last. Another gold digger with her claws out. He'll realize she's just after his money and dump her soon. From waiting tables to waiting for his bank account. Smart girl. Tears blurred her vision. Who had leaked this information? The only people who knew about the initial payment were her mother and Dante. Her phone rang. Dante calling. She let it go to voicemail, needing time to process. Then it rang again and again. Finally, she answered. "Have you seen it?" she asked, her voice tight. "I've seen it," Dante confirmed, sounding angry. "It's garbage, Sierra, complete garbage. But it's out there now. Everyone will think I'm with you for your money. Who cares what people think? We know the truth." "I care," Sierra said, tears flowing freely now. "They're calling me a prostitute. Dante, a gold digger. How am I supposed to face people?" "We'll get through this together," he promised. "I'm coming over." "No," Sierra said quickly. "I need some time alone to think." Reluctantly, Dante agreed. "Call me when you're ready to talk. I love you, Sierra. That's all that matters." After hanging up, Sierra sank onto her bed, overwhelmed. The fairy tale was crumbling. This was the reality of loving someone like Dante Sinclair. Scrutiny, judgment, cruelty from strangers. A knock at her bedroom door interrupted her thoughts. Her mother stood there, leaning on her walker, face concerned. "I saw the article," Nancy said softly. "Everyone knows," Sierra whispered. "They're saying such horrible things." Nancy made her way to the bed, sitting beside her daughter. "Since when do you care what strangers think? This is different. It's not just about me, it affects Dante too. His reputation, his business. Has he complained about that?" "No," Sierra admitted. "He says he doesn't care." "Then maybe you should believe him." Nancy took Sierra's hand. "The question isn't what other people think, it's what you feel. Do you love him?" "Yes," Sierra said without hesitation. "Enough to weather this storm, because if you're with him, there will be more storms." Sierra wiped her tears, considering her mother's words. The thought of walking away from Dante made her physically ache. But was love enough to overcome the vast differences in their worlds? The next day, Dante appeared at her door, looking tired and worried. "You weren't answering my calls," he said simply. Sierra stepped aside to let him in. "I needed time to think." "And?" His voice was tight with anxiety. "Have you decided to end things because of one gossip article?" "I've been thinking about your offer, about moving in with you." Dante's expression softened slightly. "What have you decided?" Sierra took a deep breath. "I can't move in with you, Dante, not yet. It's too soon, and after this article, I need to know I can stand on my own 2 feet. Dante's face fell, but he nodded. "I understand." "But," Sierra continued, stepping closer to him, "I'm not walking away from us. I love you. I just need to do this at my own pace." Relief washed over Dante's features. He pulled her into a tight embrace. "We'll go as slow as you need. All that matters is that you're not giving up on us." Sierra rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. "There's something else. I want to quit Le Ciel." Dante pulled back to look at her. "Because of the article." "Partly, but also because I've been thinking about what you said, about my dream, opening a bookstore." She looked up at him nervously. "I think I'm ready to try." A slow smile spread across Dante's face. "I think that's a brilliant idea." "I have some savings," Sierra said. "And the money you gave me that first night. I never spent it. I could use it to start small. Maybe rent a tiny space. Let me help," Dante said eagerly. "I could invest—" "No," Sierra interrupted firmly. "This needs to be mine, Dante. My dream, my business. If it fails on my terms." Dante studied her for a moment, then nodded. "I understand, but will you at least let me help you find the right location? No money, just my expertise." Sierra smiled. "That I can accept." The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Sierra gave notice at Le Ciel, started searching for small retail spaces, and researched everything she needed to know about opening a bookstore. The gossip article had faded from the news cycle, though Sierra still received occasional strange looks when she was out with Dante. Nancy's health improved steadily with the care of Maria, the home health aide Dante had arranged. Seeing her mother grow stronger gave Sierra the confidence to pursue her dream wholeheartedly. One evening, while Sierra was reviewing potential locations, Dante arrived with an excited expression. "I found it," he announced. "The perfect space for your bookstore." He showed her pictures of a small storefront in Brooklyn, just a few blocks from where she lived. The space had large windows, built-in bookshelves, and a cozy alcove perfect for children's readings. "It's amazing," Sierra breathed, "but it looks expensive." "It's within your budget," Dante assured her. "The owner is an older woman who wants to retire. She ran a small gift shop there for 30 years and wants someone with passion to take over the space." Sierra narrowed her eyes. "You didn't talk to her about the rent, did you?" Dante held up his hands innocently. "I just put you in touch. The negotiation is all yours." The next day, Sierra met with Mrs. Chen, the shop owner. To her surprise, the rent was indeed reasonable. The woman seemed more concerned with finding someone who would love the space as she had. "This shop has good energy," Mrs. Chen told Sierra. "It needs someone with a big heart, like you. By the end of the meeting, Sierra had signed a lease agreement. She was going to open her bookstore. That night, she and Dante celebrated with a quiet dinner at her apartment. As they shared a bottle of wine, Sierra couldn't stop smiling. "I can't believe this is happening," she said. "Thank you for believing in me." Dante took her hand across the table. "You did this, Sierra. I just helped you find the place. Still, without you." She trailed off, realizing how much her life had changed since that night at Le Ciel. "It's funny, isn't it? How one decision can change everything. Best $2,000 I ever spent," Dante joked. Sierra laughed, but then grew serious. "We never talk about that night. About the money. Does it still bother you?" "Sometimes," she admitted. "Not the money itself, but what people might think. That I'm with you because of what you can give me." Dante's expression turned thoughtful. "When I made that offer, I was lonely and desperate for genuine connection. I didn't realize what I was really looking for until I found you." He squeezed her hand. "The irony is, what I value most about you is that you don't care about my money." Sierra leaned across the table and kissed him softly. "I love you for who you are, not what you have." As they cleared the dishes together, Sierra's phone rang. It was Maria, her voice frantic. "Miss Sierra, you need to come quick. Your mother collapsed again. The ambulance is on its way." Sierra's world tilted for the second time. "We'll be right there." Dante drove them to Nancy's apartment, where paramedics were already loading her into an ambulance. Sierra rode with her mother while Dante followed in his car. At the hospital, the news was grim. "Your mother has had a significant relapse," Dr. Taylor explained. "The MS is progressing more rapidly than we anticipated. She's going to need specialized care moving forward." Sierra felt the weight of the doctor's words crushing her. What kind of care? Ideally, a specialized facility with doctors experienced in MS treatment. But those are expensive, even with insurance. Sierra nodded numbly, already calculating in her head. Her savings, the bookstore lease she had just signed, the money she would need to live on until the store became profitable. It wouldn't be. Enough. In the waiting room, Dante found her staring blankly at the wall. "How is she?" he asked, sitting beside her. Sierra explained the situation, her voice hollow. "I can't afford the kind of care she needs. Not if I'm opening the bookstore." "Sierra," Dante began, his voice gentle. "Let me help, please." She shook her head. "I can't keep accepting your money. It's exactly what that article accused me of." "This isn't about the article or what people think. This is about your mother's health." "I'll figure something out," Sierra insisted. "Maybe I can get a loan or find a second job." "Or you could accept that someone loves you and wants to help," Dante said, frustration creeping into his voice. "Why is that so hard for you?" "Because I don't want to be dependent on you," Sierra snapped, louder than she intended. Several people in the waiting room looked over. She lowered her voice. "I don't want to be the woman who solved all her problems by falling in love with a rich man." Dante stared at her, hurt flashing in his eyes. "Is that really how you see this? As some kind of financial transaction?" "No, of course not," Sierra backpedaled, realizing how her words had sounded. "I love you, but I need to stand on my own feet. Even if it means sacrificing your mother's care. Or your dream." Dante stood up. "I'm going to get some coffee. Take some time to think about what's really important here, Sierra. Your pride or your mother's health." As he walked away, Sierra felt tears burning her eyes. She knew he was right. But accepting his help felt like confirming every nasty comment in that gossip column. She was still sitting there torn and miserable when her phone rang. It was Mrs. Chen calling about the shop lease. "I'm so sorry," Sierra said after explaining the situation. "I don't think I can go through with the lease right now. My mother's health has to come first." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Family is most important," Mrs. Chen finally said. "The shop can wait. You take care of your mother first." As Sierra hung up, she felt a mixture of grief and relief. The dream would have to wait, but she was doing the right thing for her mother. When Dante returned with 2 cups of coffee, Sierra looked up at him with red-rimmed eyes. "I cancelled the lease," she said quietly. Dante sat beside her, handing her a cup. I'm sorry, Sierra, I know how much that meant to you. My mom means more. She took a deep breath. You were right. I've been letting my pride get in the way. If your offer to help still stand, it does, Dante said firmly. Always, Sierra nodded, wiping away a tear. Thank you. Dante pulled her into a gentle embrace. I love you. Your mother and your dreams are important to me because they're important to you. As Sierra rested her head against his shoulder, she felt both defeat and hope. She was accepting help, something she had prided herself on never doing. But she was also accepting love in all its complicated forms. We'll figure this out together, Dante promised, stroking her hair. The bookstore can happen later. Right now, let's focus on getting your mum the care she needs. Sierra nodded, closing her eyes. She had spent so long taking care of everyone else, standing on her own. Learning to lean on someone else, to trust someone else, was perhaps the hardest thing she had ever done. But as Dante held her steady and strong, Sierra realized that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone help you carry the load. Outside the hospital window, night had fallen, the city lights twinkling like stars. In the darkness of the waiting room, with uncertainty stretching before them, Sierra made her choice. She would accept Dante's help. She would let him into her life, fully, completely. Not because he was rich, but because he was Dante. Because he loved her and she loved him. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The road ahead would not be easy. But tonight, in this moment, Sierra knew one thing for certain. What had started as one night, one simple transaction, had become the greatest gift of her life. Love had found her when she least expected it, and now she was brave enough to embrace. 3 months had passed since Nancy's second collapse. Winter had settled over New York City, bringing with it a blanket of snow and holiday decorations that transformed the streets into a glittering wonderland. Sierra stood by the window of her mother's room at Pinewood Care Center, watching snowflakes dance in the air. The facility was exactly what Nancy needed: specialized MS care, comfortable rooms, and a staff that treated patients with genuine compassion. You're quiet today, Nancy observed from her adjustable bed, where she was working on a crossword puzzle. Though still frail, she looked better than she had in months. Her color had returned, and the tremors in her hands had lessened. Sierra turned to her mother with a smile. Just thinking about Dante, among other things. Sierra sat on the edge of the bed. He wants me to meet his business partners tonight, at the company holiday party. Nancy set her puzzle aside. And that has you worried? Sierra nodded. These are important people in his life. What if they don't approve of me? What if they think I'm just after his money, like that gossip article said? Since when does Sierra James care what other people think? Nancy reached for her daughter's hand. You've never let anyone else's opinion define you before. This is different. These people matter to Dante. And you matter to Dante. That's what's important. Nancy studied her daughter's face. Is something else bothering you? Sierra hesitated, then admitted, he's been hinting about making things more permanent between us. Marriage? Nancy's eyebrows rose. Maybe. He hasn't actually proposed, but... Sierra trailed off. It's only been 4 months, Mom. Is that crazy? Time doesn't always determine readiness, Nancy said thoughtfully. Your father asked me to marry him after 2 months. We were too young, too different, but we were sure. For a while at least. Sierra rarely heard her mother speak of her father, who had left when Sierra was just 3 years old. What went wrong? Nancy's eyes took on a faraway look. He wanted more than our small life could give him. Adventure, travel, wealth. I wanted stability, family. She squeezed Sierra's hand. But Dante isn't your father, and you aren't me. How can you be sure about someone? Sierra asked quietly. You can't, not completely. But at some point you have to decide if the risk is worth taking. Nancy smiled gently. Does he make you happy, Sierra? Yes, Sierra answered without hesitation. Happier than I ever thought possible. Then maybe that's all you need to know for now. Later that afternoon, Sierra returned to her apartment to get ready for the holiday party. She had barely spent any time there lately. Most nights she stayed at Dante's penthouse, which was closer to Pinewood. As she opened the door, she was startled to find the apartment filled with dozens of twinkling Christmas lights. Dante stood, in the middle of the room, grinning like a child. "Surprise," he said. "I thought we could decorate your place before we start spending the holidays at mine." Sierra laughed, delighted. "How did you get in?" "Your super likes me." Dante approached her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "And I might have bribed him with Nick's tickets." Sierra shook her head, still smiling. "You're ridiculous." "That's why you love me," he said confidently, leaning down to kiss her. Sierra melted into the kiss, still amazed at how right it felt to be in his arms. When they separated, Dante's expression grew more serious. "Are you nervous about tonight?" he asked, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "A little," Sierra admitted. "These are your business associates, important people in your life. They're just people, Sierra, and none of them are as important to me as you are." The sincerity in his voice eased some of her anxiety. "I just want to make a good impression." "You will. Just be yourself. That's who I fell in love with." Sierra kissed him again, grateful for his constant support. "I should start getting ready." Dante nodded. "I have one more surprise for you, actually." He walked to the closet and brought out a garment bag. "I thought you might like this for tonight." Sierra unzipped the bag to reveal a beautiful emerald green dress. It was elegant but not flashy, exactly her style. "Dante, it's gorgeous," she breathed. "The woman at the boutique helped me pick it out. She said green would bring out your eyes." He looked suddenly uncertain. "If you don't like it, or if you've already planned something else to wear." "It's perfect," Sierra interrupted, touched by his thoughtfulness. "Thank you." 2 hours later, Sierra stood beside Dante in the elevator of Sinclair Tech's headquarters, her heart pounding with nervousness. The green dress fit perfectly, and Dante couldn't stop staring at her. "You look beautiful," he said for the third time that evening. Sierra smoothed a non-existent wrinkle from the dress. "You're biased." "Completely," Dante agreed, taking her hand. "But it's still true." The elevator doors opened to reveal a transformed office space. The normally stark corporate environment had been decorated with tasteful holiday decorations. A jazz band played in one corner, and well-dressed people mingled, holding champagne flutes. Sierra took a deep breath as Dante led her into the room. Several heads turned their way, curious eyes assessing her. "Dante, there you are." A tall, elegant woman in her 50s approached them, her smile warm but her eyes calculating. "And this must be Sierra." "Vivian Reynolds, my CFO," Dante introduced. "Vivian, this is Sierra James." "Lovely to meet you," Vivian said, shaking Sierra's hand. "Dante has told us so much about you." "All good things, I hope," Sierra replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Of course," Vivian's gaze was appraising, though he failed to mention how lovely you are. Before Sierra could respond, they were joined by a distinguished-looking older man. "Richard Wilson, my COO," Dante explained. Over the next hour, Sierra met so many executives and board members that their names began to blur together. Some were openly curious about her, others more reserved. A few, she noticed, exchanged glances when they thought she wasn't looking. "Drink?" Dante asked, returning from the bar with 2 champagne flutes. Sierra accepted gratefully, taking a sip. "Your colleagues are interesting." Dante chuckled. "That's one word for them. They're wondering what you see in a waitress," Sierra said. Bluntly, Dante's expression turned serious. "Ex-waitress, current entrepreneur." He took her hand. "And what I see is a woman who is smart, kind, determined, and real. More real than anyone else in this room." The certainty in his voice made Sierra's heart swell. Maybe her mother was right. Maybe all that mattered was how they felt about each other. As the evening progressed, Sierra found herself in conversation with Vivian again, this time alone while Dante spoke with some investors across the room. "You know," Vivian said, swirling her champagne, "when I first heard about you, I was skeptical." Sierra tensed. "Because of that gossip article?" "Because Dante has never been serious about anyone before." Vivian's gaze was direct. "In 10 years of working with him, I've never seen him like this. He's changed since he met you, for the better." "Really?" Vivian nodded. "He's more focused, more balanced, happier." She studied Sierra thoughtfully. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." Before Sierra could respond, Dante rejoined them, slipping an arm around her waist. "Are you talking about me?" "All good things," Vivian assured him with a smile. "Your girl here is quite impressive, Dante. Don't mess this up." As Vivian walked away, Dante looked at Sierra curiously. "What was that about?" "I think I just got the CFO's approval," Sierra said, still surprised. Dante laughed. "Vivian doesn't give her approval easily. You must have charmed her." "Or maybe she just sees how happy you are," Sierra suggested. Dante's expression softened. "I am happy, happier than I've ever been." The rest of the evening passed more comfortably as Sierra realized that most of Dante's colleagues were simply curious about the woman who had captured his heart. By the time they left, she had made several genuine connections, particularly with Vivian and Richard's wife Martha, who had invited her to lunch the following week. In the car on the way home, Sierra rested her head on Dante's shoulder. "Thank you for tonight. It wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. See? I told you they'd love you," Dante said, kissing the top of her head. As the car pulled up to Dante's building, Sierra felt a wave of contentment. Maybe their worlds weren't so incompatible after all. The week before Christmas, Sierra was arranging a small tree in the corner of her mother's room at Pinewood when her phone rang. It was Mrs. Chen, the owner of the shop space she had nearly leased. "Miss James, I wanted to let you know the space is available again. The tenant who took it after you backed out has relocated. If you're still interested." Sierra's breath caught. I don't know if I can right now. My mother's situation." "Please just come see it again," Mrs. Chen insisted. "No pressure. Just look." After hanging up, Sierra sat beside her mother, conflicted. "The shop space is available again," she explained. Nancy's eyes lit up. "That's wonderful news." "Mom, I can't. Your care is expensive and—" "Sierra James," Nancy interrupted firmly, "do not use me as an excuse to put your dreams on hold. I'm stable now and well taken care of. But the costs can be figured." "Out," Nancy insisted. "At least go look at the space again." That afternoon, Sierra met Mrs. Chen at the storefront. Walking inside, she felt the same excitement she had the first time. The large windows letting in natural light, the built-in bookshelves, the cozy alcove perfect for children's readings. "It's still perfect," she admitted. Mrs. Chen nodded knowingly. "Sometimes life gives second chances, Miss James. My advice? Take this one." Sierra left the shop deep in thought. The dream of her bookstore still burned bright, but the practical concerns remained. Even with Dante helping with her mother's care, starting a business required capital she didn't have. That evening, she discussed it with Dante over dinner in his penthouse. "The shop is available again," she told him, pushing pasta around her plate. Dante's eyes lit up. "That's great news, isn't it?" "I don't know if I can afford it now," Sierra admitted. "Between my mom's care and living expenses." Dante set down his fork. "Sierra, you know I would—" "I know," she interrupted gently, "and I love you for it. But this needs to be my achievement, something I build myself." "What if it wasn't charity?" Dante asked, his expression thoughtful. "What if it was a business arrangement?" Sierra tilted her head. "What do you mean?" "An investment. I could provide startup capital in exchange for a small percentage of the business. Completely legitimate. The same deal I would offer any promising entrepreneur." Sierra considered the idea. It wasn't charity, it was a business proposition, and it would give her the chance to pursue her dream while maintaining her independence. "I'd need to see the terms," she said, a smile playing at her lips. "And negotiate a fair deal." Dante grinned. "I wouldn't expect anything less." The next day, Christmas Eve, Sierra visited her mother early, bringing presents and holiday treats. "You look happy," Nancy observed as they shared cinnamon rolls. "I am," Sierra confirmed. "Dante and I worked out a business arrangement for the bookstore. He's investing, but it's my business, my dream." Nancy smiled. "I'm glad you found a compromise. He's also invited us both to his place for Christmas dinner tomorrow. I told him I'd ask if you felt up to it." "I wouldn't miss it," Nancy said. "The doctors say I can have a day pass." As Sierra prepared to leave, Nancy reached for her hand. Sierra, I want you to know something. All my life, I've been proud of my independence, of doing everything on my own, but I was wrong about one thing. What's that? Accepting help doesn't make you weak. Sometimes it takes more strength to let someone in than to keep them out. Nancy squeezed her hand. You taught me that. Sierra kissed her mother's cheek, emotion welling in her throat. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. Now go enjoy your Christmas Eve with that wonderful man of yours. That night, Sierra and Dante sat on the couch in his penthouse, watching the snow fall over the city. A fire crackled in the fireplace, and the enormous Christmas tree in the corner twinkled with lights. It's beautiful, Sierra said, sipping hot chocolate, though maybe a bit excessive for just the two of us. Dante smiled. I might have gone overboard. I've never really celebrated Christmas properly before. Never. After my parents died, the holidays were just another day, Dante explained. This is the first Christmas in years that I've actually looked forward to. Sierra rested her head on his shoulder, overwhelmed with tenderness for this man who had everything material but had missed out on the simple joys of celebration and family. Well, you're stuck with us now, she said. Mom and I take Christmas very seriously. I'm counting on it. Dante shifted slightly, reaching for something beside the couch. I have an early present for you, if that's okay. I thought we agreed to wait until tomorrow, Sierra protested weakly. This one can't wait, Dante insisted, handing her a small, elegantly wrapped package. Sierra carefully unwrapped it to find a velvet box. Her heart began to race as she opened it, revealing a small silver key on a delicate chain. A key? She asked, confused. To your bookstore, Dante explained, his eyes bright with excitement. The lease is signed. It's yours, Sierra. Your dream. Tears filled Sierra's eyes. Dante, I don't know what to say. That's not all, he continued, taking her hands in his. Sierra James, these past 4 months have been the happiest of my life. I never believed in love, not really, until I met you. Sierra's breath caught as Dante slid off the couch and onto one knee before her. The first night we met, I paid for your company because I was lonely and desperate for something real. His voice was thick with emotion. I had no idea that night would change my life forever, that you would change me forever. From his pocket, he pulled out another small box. When he opened it, Sierra gasped at the sight of a stunning but tasteful diamond ring. Sierra James, will you marry me? Not tomorrow or next month, but whenever you're ready. I just want to know that someday you'll be my wife. Tears streamed down Sierra's face as she looked at the man kneeling before her. The billionaire who had walked into her restaurant and offered her money for her company. The man who had shown her more kindness, understanding, and genuine love than she had ever known. Yes, she whispered, then louder. Yes, Dante. I'll marry you. Dante's face split into a radiant smile as he slipped the ring onto her finger. Then he was pulling her into his arms, kissing her with all the love and promise of their future together. Later, as they lay in each other's arms watching the snow fall outside, Sierra thought about the journey that had brought them here. From waitress and customer to fiancé, from a simple transaction to a love neither of them had expected. What are you thinking about? Dante asked, stroking her hair. About how life can change in an instant, Sierra replied. 4 months ago, I was serving tables and wondering how I'd make rent. Now I'm engaged to you and opening my own bookstore. Do you ever regret saying yes that first night? Dante asked, a hint of vulnerability in his voice. Sierra propped herself, up on her elbow to look at him. Never. It was the best decision I ever made. Mine too, Dante whispered, pulling her close again. As Christmas Eve slipped into Christmas morning, Sierra thought about what her mother had said, about strength and acceptance, about letting someone in. All her life, she had prided herself on her independence, on doing everything alone. But loving Dante had taught her something precious. True strength wasn't found in standing alone, but in choosing to stand beside someone who made you better. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the city in a blanket of white. Inside, wrapped in Dante's arms, Sierra had never felt more at home. Tomorrow would bring Christmas dinner with her mother, the day after plans for her bookstore. And beyond that, a wedding and a future she once would have thought impossible, all because of one night, one decision, one chance she had taken on a bichu, lonely birthday evening. Sierra looked at the ring glittering on her finger, then at the man sleeping peacefully beside her. She had expected their worlds to collide and break apart. Instead, they had created a new world together, one filled with love, respect, and the promise of a future brighter than either of them could have imagined alone. Spring arrived in New York with a burst of green and renewal. Cherry blossoms dotted the city parks, and a warm breeze replaced the winter chill. On the corner of a charming Brooklyn street, a small storefront sparkled with fresh paint and new signage. The large windows were decorated with colorful displays of books and comfortable reading nooks visible from the sidewalk. Inside, once upon a page, Sierra arranged the final details for the grand opening. The children's corner, with its miniature tables and cushions, was stocked with picture books. The adult section featured carefully curated novels, non-fiction, and local authors. "It's perfect," Dante said, entering with a bouquet of flowers. "Just like you imagined." Sierra accepted the flowers with a kiss. "I still can't believe it's real." "Believe it," he said, looking around proudly. "You did this, Sierra." "We did this," she corrected, touching the engagement ring that now felt like a natural part of her hand. "I couldn't have done it without you. You would have found a way," Dante insisted, "but I'm glad you let me help." The bell above the door jingled as Nancy entered, walking slowly but steadily with just a cane. For support. The specialized treatment at Pinewood had improved her condition remarkably. "Mom," Sierra hurried to her side. "You didn't have to come today. The grand opening isn't until tomorrow." "And miss seeing everything before the crowds arrive?" "Not a chance." Nancy looked around appreciatively. "It's even more beautiful than you described." As Sierra gave her mother a tour of the store, Dante watched them with a full heart. These two strong, remarkable women had changed him in ways he was still discovering. They had shown him what family really meant. Later that evening, after closing the shop and helping Nancy back to Pinewood, Sierra and Dante walked hand in hand through the neighborhood. "I was thinking," Dante said casually, "about the wedding." They had set a date for the fall, deciding on a small ceremony with just close friends and family. "What about it?" Sierra asked. "What would you think about having it at the bookstore? After hours, just a simple ceremony surrounded by books and the dream you've built." Sierra stopped walking, turning to face him. "You would do that? No big venue, no elaborate reception?" Dante tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Sierra, I would marry you anywhere. In a courthouse, on a mountain, in your bookstore. All that matters is that we're together." Sierra rose on her tiptoes to kiss him, her heart overflowing with love for this man who continued to surprise her. "The bookstore would be perfect," she whispered against his lips. As they resumed their walk, the future stretching bright before them, Sierra thought about the night that had changed everything. One dinner, one conversation, one chance connection between two lonely souls. She had never believed in fate or destiny, but now she wondered. Perhaps some people were meant to find each other, no matter how unlikely the circumstances. Sierra James, once a waitress struggling to make ends meet, now a bookstore owner and soon-to-be wife, squeezed Dante's hand as they walked toward home. Their home. One night had changed everything, but it was their love that would last forever. The end.